Hello everyone. I want to thank Martha for inviting me here. And I also want to thank those of you who had a part in getting me here. Let me say a few things before I start. First off, I'm attempting to put this text in the video so everyone can read along. I attempted this the last time I was here, which was back in March, and I messed up. But I think I know what I did wrong, so I'm attempting it again. So with any luck, this will work. Actually, I just got PowerPoint, so I'm hoping this will work. However, as you read along, there will be words and names that are spelled wrong. These misspellings are on purpose so that TikTok will say everything correctly. You will also see some strange codes. These codes tell TikTok to do certain things. If you want to know what each coded command does, they are found on my USB under TikTok 101. In fact, a lot of what I will be covering will be on my USB. So if you are interested, come find either Randy or myself. Or you can order one through my website and it will be shipped to you. The other thing I want to mention is I was asked to share my story and motivate people, and I will. But I'm mostly gonna share the good and inspiring parts of my life. But I feel I should at least say I was abused for 12 years of my childhood. But there were some really good things that came out of where I was living. So for this hour, I will focus on the good parts. I'll save the dark past for some other time. Okay, I was born in Duluth, Minnesota. I want to show a picture of my biological mom and dad, Brenda Botten and Roger Ledoux. I had the honor of meeting them later in life. I feel as though I am a clone of my dad because we had everything in common. And my mom not only loved and drank Coke as much as I do, but she had a huge collection of Coke merchandise. Plus we had the same kind of phone, answering machine, same DVD player, and so on. Anyway, they were never married, and Brenda was living at home with her parents. She was able to hide her pregnancy for 11 weeks. But when her parents discovered she was pregnant, they forced her to go to an abortion clinic. But back then, abortions were not done past the 10th week. So not only did the 11th week save my life, but I was born on the 11th of December. So I feel that the number 11 is a sign that I was meant to be. Now as I was preparing this talk, I started to laugh. Now I want all of you to picture this in your mind. I was born prematurely, so of course I had to be on a breathing machine. But here I was, crying, moving around, messing my diaper, but yet... I can't help but laugh at this. But yet, the doctor said I was brain dead. Hello? If I was brain dead, I wouldn't be crying, moving and everything else. So the first thing I want to say is, don't let other people's opinions put limitations on you. If you really want to do something, find a way to adapt it so you can achieve your goal. And, if something has never been done by a disabled person before, smile, because you will be the first one to do it. If you choose to give up, you won't get anywhere. I was sort of depressed as a child because of all the things I was told I couldn't do. One of the things my older foster sister taught me to say was, I have cerebral palsy and I can't walk. So I went around saying that for a while. Excuse me, sir, I have cerebral palsy and I can't walk. Then I thought about what I was saying. My wheelchair is not invisible, so I thought it was obvious that I couldn't walk. So this revelation made me angry. And I started saying with anger, I will do it myself. I just was tired of being reminded of my disability and what I couldn't do, that I just started refusing help. And Helen Reddy recorded a song called I Am Woman. I'm hoping some of you heard the song.
You can bend but never break me, because it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not out of all the same.
I am normal. I played that song all the time because even though the song was about women's rights, the disabled community needed to also somehow fight for their rights too. I think part of why I wanted to do everything for myself was because I didn't feel disabled. I was understanding more things than people realized. And if there was something that I couldn't do, I'd just find another way to do it. And once you are able to do things, why are you still disabled? I don't know how old I was, but I remember I rolled everywhere. I basically lived on the floor. I had my bed on the floor because I would fall out of bed at night. I even had my own television that was on the floor. I mean, my bedroom felt like paradise. And to earn my allowance, I simply had to stay in my room, which was easy. And let me say one thing. The foster dad would often buy me toys in hopes that I would keep quiet about stuff and just stay in my room. So when I say I grew up in a bedroom, I'm not kidding. As a kid, I wanted to be a radio DJ. So I asked for what was called a Mr. Microphone from Radio Shack. Man, I was happy when I got it. I think it only broadcasted like 30 feet to an FM radio, but I used to pretend that my bedroom was a radio station. I had a police scanner, so I could actually report real stuff that was happening. And for the weather, I had an all-band radio that could easily pick up NOAA weather radio, so I'd pretend to broadcast that. I mean, I just had fun even though I knew I couldn't come out of my room. At times it was lonely, but I just kept pretending stuff to pass the time. My all-band radio could pick up ham radio, which was beyond cool, and oh how I wanted to be an amateur radio operator. I kind of already knew the phonetic alphabet because my all-band radio could pick up the airport and all the pilots flying in and out. The pilots and the control tower would use the phonetic alphabet to spell stuff. So like ABC would be Alpha Bravo Charlie. And as far as Morse code, all of my walkie-talkies had Morse code right on them. I thought Morse code was just part of the toy. I had no idea that it was used worldwide in amateur radio. Before I go any further, I want to talk about how important it is to have both a role model and a friend. Let me go back to when I was 4 years old. By that age I had been in and out of hospitals having surgeries, tests, and whatnot. And at the age of 4, I was in yet another hospital. I remember it as if it were yesterday. I had a roommate named Greg who had this stuffed animal dog. I didn't know what it was. I only knew I wanted one. I was told it was a Snoopy. I didn't know who Snoopy was, but I wanted one. Finally, my foster parents brought me a surprise. I thought it was a bag of donuts, because it always was a bag of donuts. Well, it was a bag all right. I was told to reach in, which I thought was silly because I knew it was donuts. But as I put my hand in, I felt something soft. I had this puzzled look as I pulled it out. It was a Snoopy. I finally had a friend that would always be with me. That night I told him all about myself. Now let me stop for a minute. I think most children imagine things, but I can't help but wonder if things are as imaginary as they seem. Or, as we grow, do we simply stop believing? I ask because, until I was around 17, my Snoopy talked to me telepathically. Or perhaps it was my own subconscious mind. But whatever it was, it helped hold me together. I took him everywhere. And what helped me was, he saw as I got abused. After each time, we would hold each other, and Snoopy would always tell me to hold onto myself because my day would eventually come. My school had a problem with me bringing Snoopy to school. Excuse me, but in first grade the teacher would have everyone put on their invisible thinking caps. And what about those field trips to downtown to see Santa? Even as a kid I was impossible to deal with because I was smart. So it was easier for everyone to just let me keep taking him to school. Eventually I did leave him home, but only when I was ready. By the way, I still have him, and he is now 49 years old. I have many other Snoopies, but he was my first one. Now, back when I was ready to start school, I was part of the first disabled generation to get an education. So I didn't have a role model. I didn't even know what that was. All I knew was that I was in a wheelchair. My speech was hard to understand, and most people were talking down to me. Oh, and I had glasses that I wouldn't wear. I wouldn't say I hated being disabled, because I never felt disabled. I hated being treated like I couldn't understand anything, or like I didn't know what I was doing. Well, one day that all changed. I was out somewhere, and a TV was on. I thought it was the show Gunsmoke or something, so I wasn't really watching it. But I happened to glance at the TV, and there was a woman that had glasses on, who was tied up, and a cave was about to explode. I thought she needed help. I also was wondering why she put herself in a dangerous situation. Why was she alone? I had all these questions that people usually have about me, but then... Wow, she changed into Wonder Woman. So that means this ordinary woman, Diana Prince, was only a persona. Her glasses helped hide her true identity. So I started viewing my disability as a persona. My glasses and my wheelchair hid who I really was on the inside. I guess the show Wonder Woman made me feel more confident about myself. I never felt the bar of success was set high enough for me. So I set my own bar, and I still went above and beyond the expectations I had set for myself. But what really motivated me was when Linda Carter, the actress who played Wonder Woman, made this commercial.
The Foundation for Exceptional Children is searching for disabled young people who do their personal best. Each year, the Foundation's Yes I Can program honors children in recognition of their very special accomplishments. If you know an outstanding disabled young person 2 to 21, write to Yes I Can, Department T, Reston, Virginia 22091. And yes, you can.
And being I was already giving everything my all, just hearing Linda Carter say those words made me unstoppable. And today I want each and every one of you to hear that same message. Society somehow automatically tells people they can't do this or they can't do that. When a baby is born with a disability, it's thought of as such a tragedy. But the real tragedy is, society still thinks that way. Some of the greatest people that ever lived had a disability. Let me give 10 examples. Stephen Hawking, much more than the namesake of Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking, which is an awesome show on the Discovery Channel, by the way. Stephen Hawking was one of the most well-known physicists in the world, and he was able to achieve that in spite of being diagnosed with ALS when he was 21. He could now only speak with the assistance of a computer and has been a full-time power chair user since the 1980s. His disability, however, has never been an excuse to give up on his desire to study the universe, specifically the framework of general relativity and quantum mechanics. His best-selling work, A Brief History of Time, stayed on the Sunday Times bestsellers list for an astounding 237 weeks. Hawking passed away on March 13, 2018. Franklin D. Roosevelt, a beloved U.S. president who helped guide the nation successfully through World War II. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt is considered a great president, and the entire time he was in office, FDR was also a wheelchair user. Upon starting his political career in Gusto, he contracted polio while drinking water at a campground and became paralyzed from the waist down. even though it wasn't made public until years later that he couldn't walk for fear of the public doubting his competency. FDR proved paralysis wasn't a roadblock to being a great leader. Ralph Braun, the late founder of the Braun Corporation, one of the leading manufacturers of wheelchair-accessible vehicles, and named a champion of change by President Barack Obama. Ralph Braun was a man who thrived on bringing the freedom of mobility to people with disabilities. Born with muscular dystrophy, Ralph started his career in 1966 when he created the first wheelchair-accessible van with hand controls, and in 1991 Ralph's company, Braun Mobility, created the first accessible minivan. His vision has brought mobility via four wheels to millions of people around the world, and despite passing away, his legacy will never be forgotten. John Hockenberry, an American journalist and author, four-time Emmy Award winner and three-time Peabody Award winner. John Hockenberry is one of the most successful journalists with a spinal cord injury. He worked for Dateline in the late 1990s, becoming one of the first visible journalists to use a wheelchair on an American network. He's also the author of the book Moving Violations, War Zones, Wheelchairs and Declarations of Independence, and has been a radio host of The Takeaway, a live national news program on public radio since 2008. Marlee Matlin, an Academy Award-winning actress for her leading role in Children of a Lesser God 1986, Marlee Matlin is one of the most successful actresses who's deaf. She has been deaf since she was 18 months old due to a genetically malformed cochlea. She also received a Golden Globe Award for her role in Children of a Lesser God. Since receiving her Oscar, Marlee has been a character on many TV shows including The L Word and Law and Order, SVU, and has appeared on reality shows such as The Apprentice and Dancing with the Stars. Stevie Wonder, one of the most beloved singers alive today. Stevie Wonder is a musician, singer and songwriter who was born blind. He was born 6 weeks early. The blood vessels at the back of his eyes had not yet reached the front and aborted their growth, hence his blindness. Considered a child prodigy, Stevie signed with his first record label at age 11, Motown's Tamla label, and he's been performing since. Over his wildly successful music career, Stevie has recorded more than 30 U.S. top 10 hits, including his singles Superstition, Sir Duke, and I Just Called to Say I Love You. Frida Kahlo, injured in a trolley accident when she was a teenager and forced into bed rest for several months to heal a broken back that would never fully heal 100%. Mexican artist Frida Kahlo is one of the most well-known artists with disabilities of the 20th century. She also contracted polio when she was 6 and had a misshapen leg. Frida is most known for her self-portraits, many which portrayed her in her wheelchair. While her tumultuous relationship with other famed Mexican artist, Diego Rivera, is another aspect of her life Frida is known for. Frida will always be known for her fierce spirit of survival through artistic expression. Helen Keller, an American author, political activist and lecturer who is on the Alabama State Quarter. Helen Keller was the first deaf and blind person to earn a college degree. Her story was famously portrayed in the play and film, The Miracle Worker, which documented how her teacher Anne Sullivan was finally able to develop a language that Helen could understand. Helen wrote a total of 12 published books, including her spiritual autobiography, My Religion, and was also a member of the Socialist Party in America, and campaigned heavily for women's rights and other labor rights. Lenin Moreno, one of the most powerful people with a disability to hold public office since FDR. Lenin Moreno was the vice president of Ecuador from 2007 to 2013, making history and bringing attention to the needs of the disabled people in his country in the process. He was injured in a shooting before getting involved in politics. Thanks to his work for providing for the needs of people with disabilities in his country when he was vice president, Lenin was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2012. Sudha Chandran. While her name might not be as well known in the United States, Sudha Chandran is one of the most well-known dancers and TV actresses in India, despite losing one of her legs to infection in 1981 after a car accident. She's what is known as a Bharatanatyam dancer and was able to teach herself how to dance using a prosthetic Japir foot, enabling her to become one of the most highly acclaimed dancers in the world. A Hollywood film, Mayuri, was also made about her life. It takes a very special soul to harness the strength to climb to the heights these people have. Achieving greatness is never easy, especially in the face of disability, and they not only make it look easy, they are now forever disability superstars. Each one of you today has a chance to become known for changing the world. Yes, there will be all kinds of people telling you to give up, your desires are impossible, and stuff like that. But if you truly believe deep down within yourself that your desires, your dreams can become reality, then knock on every door and talk to every person until you find the right people and equipment to make your dreams come true. I was 8 years old when someone was pushing me down the hall at school. A door was open to a classroom. It was a typing class. I badly wanted to learn to type, both for communication and so I could do my schoolwork independently. However, the age requirement was 12. So I went on strike for 3 weeks and I wouldn't do anything until I was allowed into the typing class. Finally they let me into the class hoping I would soon give up. But I never gave up. A year later, I had my own typewriter in the classroom and I was doing my work by myself. And because of my success, they got rid of the age limit so that those kids who couldn't write could type. One day the typing teacher was showing us a book of art that was done with a typewriter and trying to say how hard it was to do. I sort of laughed and said to myself, "That's easy." She heard what I said and she got angry. She put paper in my typewriter and told me to create something. I did. She was stunned. A week later, a girl was also doing typewriter art. The teacher asked how we knew how to do it. We both said, "You just do it." Let me share an old news clip so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Snoopi Botten sits pecking at the typewriter. It is a painstaking process because he has little control over the movements of his body. Snoopy has athetoid cerebral palsy.
The only time I remember I am in a wheelchair is when people talk down to me.
The reason he spends hours at the typewriter is to prove what everyone has always said about him is wrong. Snoopy's father told him the typewriter wasn't meant for art, so he continued making his typewriter pictures in secret.
When I was 12, computer terminals were just coming out and my school got one. Now back then, computers were not at all like the computers we have today. They didn't have a screen or a monitor. They had a huge roll of paper in the back of it, and it fed up through the top and the computer would print everything out on this seemingly never-ending paper. And you had to dial a certain number and put the receiver in a coupler that was on the computer. Then you would log in. After that, you entered your name before doing anything else. Well, I would sign in as Snoopy, which drove everyone crazy. I was told to stop doing that, and I was like, if you all know who I am, what's the big deal? I kept doing it, and I also discovered shortcuts to get from program to program. Now what I didn't know was, I was being monitored on the other end. Now these people were freaking out because I was doing stuff that they didn't know was possible. Then one day I was on my way to use the computer, and there were bright lights everywhere. Then a woman comes up to me and says, "We're looking for Snoopy." Total fear came over me. I was thinking I did something really bad. I was thinking jail, prison, execution. I had no idea. I could see the headlines, disabled boy put to death for logging onto a computer as Snoopy. No, they just wanted to do a story on me and to ask how I was doing stuff that even their engineers didn't know it could do. How does anyone even answer that? I have just always questioned and tried everything. Every time I was told not to do something, I just had to do it to find out why I shouldn't do it. Like, does anyone remember the mystery yuck stickers? They had that green yucky face that you put on all the items that you don't want your child to get into.
Home is full of lots of things that children shouldn't touch. Home is full of bad things that can hurt you very much. Now there's a man whose face is green that you ought to get to know. He'll warn you when danger's coming fast or slow. Get to know his face in every single place.
Mom, please buy those so I can know what to get into. I knew they wouldn't put that stuff in the school newspaper. Plus I was still scared. I mean, they said they were doing a story on me, but what if they only wanted a confession before putting me in the slammer? I'm kidding. I don't even remember what all they asked me, but it was in the school news. And yes, every time after that, I still logged on as Snoopy. I believe I was 15 when I went to a boarding school. I did try high school before that, but the workload was too much for me. Plus I wanted to be out of the foster home so bad. So I went away to Lakeview School in Worthington, Minnesota, which was a school for the handicapped. There, they let everyone work at their own pace, which was nice. One of the many things I did was start an amateur radio club. When I first brought up ham radio, they were thinking of a radio made out of ham. But I explained what it was, and how you could study for different licenses so you could be on different bands. I found a local ham operator to come out and teach us, and we got the school to let us set up a ham radio in the dorm. I had to take my license exam twice, but I did pass, and my call sign was KA0QJM, or Kilo Alpha Zero, Quebec Julia Mike. Each operator has their own call sign issued by the FCC. You can talk to people all over the world, so it's a lot of fun. You do have certain topics that you cannot talk about because it could start a war, but other than that, it's fun. My license expired, and I never had time to brush up and take the test again. If I ever retire from music, I might get back into ham radio, but I love traveling and recording, so I might not ever retire. I don't talk about this a lot because it was one of those bad times in my life, but when I was 16, I was given a communication device to try for 30 days. It was called a Handy Voice. I think I had the Handy Voice 120. If I remember right, the Handy Voice had 4 levels that were color-coded. Level 1 was red, and that was where the nouns were. Level 2 was yellow, level 3 was blue, and level 4 was orange. It was mine for 30 days, so I played around with it. My favorite level was 4, because it had phonetic sounds which allowed me to build any word I could think of. And yes, I made it say anti-establishmentarianism. It was neat, but it was harder to understand than I was. So when I tried using it for communication, I had to tell people what it was saying. So at the end of the 30 days, I gladly gave it back. No one asked me if I wanted one, which I did not. Then about 2 months went by and I got a package in the mail. The school had ordered me a Handy Voice. At first I thought it was a joke, because why would anyone use something that was harder to understand than they were? And then I was told an insane rule. I was only to talk using the Handy Voice, and if I didn't, no one would listen to me. So I put the Handy Voice under my bed in the dorm where it stayed, and I simply didn't talk during school hours. The staff in the dorm were mostly on my side, that's why I could talk after school hours. This went on for some time, then the speech therapist thought he was going to turn the heat up on me. I can't remember what was done, but it was the last straw, and I decided to turn the heat up even more. I called legal aid. I told them the situation and how I felt I should be allowed to speak with my own voice. I was amazed at how fast legal aid came to the school and told them they had to stop trying to force me to use the handy voice. Now let me say, I loved the idea of a communication device, but the handy voice had no memory, no display, and it was awful. Fun to play with, but not practical to actually use. One thing I forgot to mention, at age 9, I started writing poetry. I wrote for around 40 years for church newsletters. But back when I was a kid, my foster sister got me hooked on Rod McEwen, who was a poet, songwriter, and singer. His voice just made you melt. Let me give you a small taste of what he sounds like.
Jean, Jean, the roses are red. All the leaves have gone green, and the clouds are so low you can touch them, and so come out to the meadow, Jean. I have been a rover, I've walked alone, hiked 100 highways, never found a home. Still and all I'm happy. The reason is, you see, once in a while, along the way, love's been good to me. Now the shadows of the morning have gone beyond the August afternoon, and Charlie's had his day, his very special day, his morning and his evening and his noon. Maybe it's a kind of magic that only little boys can do. But seeing Charlie smile can make you stop a while, get you feeling glad you're you. He's only a boy named Charlie.
Welcome home, Charlie Brown.
Boy named Charlie Brown.
So I really believe he influenced my writing style. In Minnesota, I had the awesome opportunity to enter the state poetry contest 2 years in a row. I was picked as one of the winners both years. So somewhere I have a few poems in a book. Poetry is very much like writing a song, so writing was always easy for me. At age 21, I guess you could say I was bored. In high school, they had an Apple II computer that had a speech module that I loved to mess around with. I badly wanted one, but I couldn't afford it because they were like $2,000. So I was deep in thought. A communication device had a speech module, so I jumped through a bunch of hoops to get Medicaid to buy me one. It originally came with only 2 voices in it. I got to tinkering with it and I created 2 additional voices, which meant I had 4 voices. So I started doing comedy using this computer family I made up. Then I upgraded to Deck Talk, and it changed my life forever. Deck Talk could be programmed to sing. The people around me thought I lost my mind. It took me over a year to get my very first sound out of it. I was jumping up and down because it was my very first phonetic code that actually worked. And the people around me just couldn't understand that I finally had a starting point. I then started taking music classes. I had to learn how to convert music time into milliseconds. But before I did that, I had to learn how to read sheet music while studying the human voice. Plus I had to learn phonetic coding, because when you program a song, you have to take each sound in each word and assign them to pitch and time values. That is hard. I practiced for 5 years before emerging as a synthetic singer. I sang weekly at a piano bar, which got me invited to sing at other events. So by 1997, I was very used to entertaining large crowds. When I got asked to sing the national anthem for the Minnesota Twins, I truly thought nothing of it. The sound crew was so good because they were told ahead of time that I knew what I was doing, so they let me tell them where I needed the microphone and everything. I did the anthem with no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask you to please rise and join Snoopi Botten as he leads us in our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose rugged stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts were so gallantly streaming, and through rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave?
But I wasn't ready for what happened next. First I got a plaque to remember the night. I had no understanding why that was done. Then, people started sending me news articles about them doing the anthem in their state. I think I need to stop and say that back then, I was doing song requests for people so they could sing with their device. And back then, music was mostly a hobby because I wasn't that good. I was off-key and out of time. So I was doing songs for people for free. So when these news articles mentioned my name, I was confused. I did not want the recognition at all. I think part of it was I was new in music. I had done art for 12 years and I never got recognized. And I had so much to learn about music. Plus, I hadn't experienced awards as a child, so I really wanted no part of it. And I believe it was 1999, some of my friends who were also singers were working on albums. And by pure chance, I met someone. And within like 3 hours we decided to do an album ourselves. I decided to write all the songs myself. So some months into the project, it got leaked out and I got nominated for an award just because I was doing it with AAC. No one had heard any of the songs and I felt like my device was being awarded and not me. 1 year, I got talked into receiving the Da Vinci Award. That was in 2005. I was told to just do it for the experience. So I agreed to do it, but I was so lost. I did an interview for a video that they were going to present to the audience, and somehow all of the information got totally screwed up. And to top it all off, my foster brother died 2 days before the event. So his funeral was going on at the same time I was getting an award. That was hard. It took me some time to process everything. Very slowly I discovered that maybe if I had a role model in my life, maybe it would have prepared me for some of this stuff. I started thinking about becoming a role model to others. By then, I was living in Ohio. It struck me how some disabled people were never taught even the basic things, such as the easy way to take a jacket on and off. And so, I started making dressing videos, and I want to show part of one right now. For teaching kids how to put their own jacket on. I use a jack-in-the-box. It's fun because kids get to spring up like a jack-in-the-box, and if for some reason some of you don't know what a jack-in-the-box is, it's basically a box with a crank, and you turn the crank until the box pops open. ATmakers.org made a single switch adaptation that turns the crank when the switch is pressed. And once kids learn how to pop up, they can watch my video and learn an easy way to put a jacket on, and I'll show you part of that video.
Putting a shirt or jacket on is much easier. Before I get into it, let me have everyone do some arm circles. Just put your arms straight out like this and move them in a circle like this, and do it a few times. And what I really want everyone to do is a backwards arm circle like I am doing now. And the reason for this is because this is how you will get your shirt or jacket on. So do the biggest and best backwards arm circles that you can. Big backward circles. Very good. And there is one more thing I want you to do. I want you to be like a jack-in-the-box. So, I want you to bend forward like this and have your arms stretched out forward and angled out like a Y, like this. And when I say 1, 2, 3, jack-in-the-box, I want you to move slightly up and do one big backwards arm circle. Doing this will set your jacket up over your head and it will fall down behind you right into your chair. So your jacket will fall into your chair, jack-in-the-box. It is almost like magic. So, let's practice this. Everyone bend forward and put your arms out forward and make a Y. And remember, don't jump all the way up or your jacket won't be able to fall behind you. Now get ready to move up and make a big arm circle. Ready? 1, 2, 3, jack-in-the-box. And that is how fast your jacket will be on. Let's do it one more time before we try it with the jacket. So bend forward one more time and hold out those magic arms and make the magic Y. And 1, 2, 3, jack-in-the-box. And everyone will be wondering how you did that so fast. So let's try doing it with the jacket. You need to start by having the jacket in front of you and upside down. And like I said, my new jacket, I have a hard time finding the sleeves, so I might need a minute. Try giving yourself a minute while doing a live recording. That is hard to do. Anyway, you want to get the jacket so you can get both arms into the sleeves, and you want them as far in as you can get them, but you don't need them all the way through. And you can start with whatever arm you want. You can get one arm in, that is, when you can find the sleeve. And the people who are watching you do this will tell you that you are putting your jacket on upside down. And you can smile and bet them $1 that you're not. A great trick to pull on an uncle, because uncles like to bet. So, bet them $5 that the jacket won't end up on you upside down. And if you have one arm in, and you are trying to find the other sleeve, just put your other hand by the sleeve and move it straight across. When you do, you can't usually find the other sleeve. My jacket is not letting me find it, so I'm having to feel for it. But when you find the other sleeve, get your arm in as far as you can. And then after you do that, if you can make a number 4 with both hands, it will help the magic. So just hold out your 4 fingers like you did when you were taking your jacket off, and remember to tuck in your thumb because something magic is going to happen that I didn't tell you about. So if your arms are both in the sleeves, bend forward, hold both arms out in front of you, just like we practiced. And remember to spread your arms out to make a Y. Now, remember to make a big backward circle when you move up. Now get ready. 1, 2, 3, jack-in-the-box. And look, your jacket is not only on, but look at your hands. The force of the backward circle made your hands come right through the sleeves. Or at least sometimes it does. If it didn't, you can just pull your sleeves up, or sometimes you can just stretch out your arms in front of you and your hands might pop right out. It'll depend on the jacket. But these are some real fast and easy ways to put a shirt or jacket on or off. I hope this video was helpful.
And I think the fact that I myself am disabled helps kids try that much harder. Plus I make it fun. I'm hoping to make more videos like that because to me, nothing is more important than teaching independence. I think all kids need a yes I can attitude. So even though I still don't quite understand what a role model is, I am a success story. So I have projects in mind to help others become successful in life. At age 25, I found out people could go to court and have their name changed. I was excited. I had a very common name at the time, and being I wanted the name Snoopy all my life, I didn't have to think twice about it. However, I knew I was going into entertainment, which meant there might be a copyright issue. So I simply changed the spelling by changing the Y into an I. So the spelling was S-N-O-O-P-I. I was, and still am very into acronyms. An acronym is where every letter of a word stands for something. So the letters in Snoopy stands for someone needs one other person indefinitely. Every person that we encounter in life has an impact in both who we are and what we become. One of the examples I like to use is when I met singer Sandy Petty. I was 21 and I was still making Christmas cards using a typewriter. One of her songs, The Gift Goes On, inspired me to paraphrase the song and make a card. I had no idea if this was legal, so I asked for a backstage pass so I could ask her. I couldn't believe it when I actually got the pass. So after her concert I was escorted backstage and met her. So I asked her my question, and, to my disappointment, she knew almost nothing about her music. So I went away with the revelation that having a voice of an angel doesn't make you smart. It also made me want to be a singer because I at least know songs and what was on the American Top 40. So that's what made me want a speech module, which led me into getting a communication device. I wanted to sing and nothing was going to stop me. And that's what I mean by someone having an impact. I know some of you can name a person who changed your life. However, I believe it's multiple people who plant a seed into what you will become. And being we are always changing throughout our lives, we all keep meeting people who impact the next stage of our lives. And when the stage is bare and the crowds are gone, that's when you process everything and you realize what direction you are inspired to go. And those are the hardest moments because as you are preparing for your next stage of your life, the people around you who have no direction of their own life are the people who want to see you fail. And you also have those people who say they believe in you, but actually don't. So staying motivated can be really hard. And sometimes when you do hit a wall, you need to seek out that one person who can help you go farther. So that need for one other person never ends. I don't know how many of you heard of Judy Bailey, but she writes songs related to AAC. She had made an inquiry looking for someone who could program a device to sing. We didn't know each other at the time, and one of the songs she wanted was If I Had a Voca, which originally was If I Had a Hammer by Peter, Paul and Mary. I smiled because I was going to show off. So I did all 3 parts and did it as a trio, and I emailed it to her.
Well, I have a vocal and I have a keyboard and I have a story to write all over this land. It's the vocal of justice. It's the keyboard of freedom. It's the story about love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land. It's the Vocam Justice. It's the keyboard of freedom. It's the story about love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land.
I really don't think she was expecting that. I bring it up because she inspired me to do other duets and trios. I had done like one duet before I met her, and after meeting her and doing the trio, I realized that it was not that hard to do, and it was fun. So now when I do duets and trios, I think of Judy Bailey, because if I hadn't shown off for her, I really don't think I'd be doing those today. In fact, I was singing with a gal named Annie for a while, and there's a song from the Little House of Horrors called Suddenly Seymour that she would sing with the bartender. Well, I decided to have some fun, so I named the song Suddenly Snoopy and sang it as a duet with Danny. Man, that was fun. So now I'm wanting to program other duets so that other people who use devices can have the same fun. I bring this up because anyone at any time can have an impact in a person's life. Caroline Musselwright inspired me to start doing presentations after 6 years of being sick. Teachers and therapists, don't be afraid to push students to their limits, because guess what? You learn from failing. Kids need to know that it's okay to fail because that's the only way to learn. Everyone needs to acknowledge their mistakes in order to improve. In closing, I want to encourage all of you to defy gravity. People will always doubt your abilities, and their words and actions may pull you down. There are people who want to live in a bubble. They have put together a negative opinion about the disabled in their mind, and nothing will ever change their mind. Years ago I used to try to get through to people with such a mindset, but all it did was bring me down by being around their negative energy. So these days if people want to doubt what I can do, I sort of run. I mean, look me up on the internet and see what I have done before you doubt me. For me, gravity doesn't exist because nothing seems to hold me down. I want to encourage all of you to go after your dreams and defy the limits that others have put on you. And never give up. I can't say it enough, anything is possible. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instinct. Close my eyes and leap. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you won't pull me down. I'm through accepting limits, 'cause someone says they're so. Some things I cannot change. Till I try, I'll never know. Too long I've been afraid of losing love. I guess I've lost. Well, if that's love, it comes at much too high a cost. I'm soon your boy, defying gravity. Kiss me goodbye. I'm defying gravity, and you won't pull me down. Unlimited. My future is unlimited. And I just had a vision almost like a prophecy. I know it sounds truly crazy, and true the vision's hazy.
but I swear someday I'll be up in the sky, defying gravity, flying so high, defying gravity, and you won't pull me down. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. As someone told me lately, everyone deserves the chance to fly. And if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free. To those who drowned me, take a message back from me. Tell them and defying gravity, I'm flying by defying gravity, and soon I'll meet them in green or